Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss movies and horror. And today, finally, I'm gonna be talking to you about Terrifier 2.
It's coffee time!
Now, if you're unfamiliar with Terrifier, the first movie, it came out in 2016 and it just followed Art the Clown in Halloween night as he targeted a couple of girls to be his victims. And it was really brutal, it was really gory, and a lot of people said it was kind of torture porn, but a lot of others have been praising Terrifier and Terrifier 2, kind of like a more brutal slasher, but still considered a slasher and not torture porn. Now, when I watched Terrifier for the first time, I really loved it, and I feel like a lot of it has to do with Art the Clown as our main character. I think he's really charismatic, and that made me fall in love with the movie and with his character as the villain. Now, the first Terrifier came out in 2016, and same as Terrifier 2, it was written, produced, and directed, created, everything by Damien Leone, and he even does the makeup of Art the Clown. At least he used to do in the beginning. I don't know if he still does that because he now has probably a bigger budget. And even though this is the second Terrifier movie, it is the third movie in which we can see Art the Clown. The first movie where you can see that is All Hallows Eve. I watched it recently, and honestly I think that might be one of the most messed up from the three. All Hallows Eve basically follows a babysitter and the two kids she's babysitting when they find this tape as they go trick-or-treating, and the tape is kind of showing these almost snuff movies, and so it's kind of like short stories, and I loved it. And you get to see Art the Clown for the first time, then you have Terrifier, and then now Terrifier 2, really long expected and waited Terrifier 2. So in this video I'm gonna let you know my thoughts on it. Was it worth the wait, and if you should watch it, everything spoiler free. So Terrifier 2 is like a slasher splatter horror movie. A lot of people would consider it torture porn, but I love to see it as a slasher splatter. David Howard Thornton returns and retakes his role as Art the Clown. And like I said before, I feel like Art the Clown is one of the main reasons why I love this so much. He has such a charismatic personality. He never speaks, he just laughs and makes interesting faces and mimics. So he's kind of like in between a mime and a clown, and I also really like that he's just black and white. I feel like the whole concept of Art the Clown is what really has elevated this movie into what it is now, which is kind of like a cult base. That's what the movie has. Now, in 2009 there was a short, I believe, by the director, and he had this idea of a heroine, like a female hero that would have wings and everything, and that concept was finally taken to Terrifier 2, and that is who we know as Sienna in the second movie. So that idea was already there in his mind since 2009. Also, for Terrifier 2, the director did start kind of like a Kickstarter campaign where he asked for money to support his project, and he ended up, you know, going through all expectations and making more money than he expected that he could then put into the movie. And I believe most of it went to the practical special effects, which are very much needed in a movie of this caliber. Set 1 year after the brutal Halloween slayings depicted in Terrifier, the sequel picks up as the Miles County Clown has become an instant urban legend. Resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to Miles County to terrorize a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. Let's talk about the characters. So in between all the flesh and the gore and the blood and all of those nice things, there is kind of a plot in this movie, which is something that a lot of people complained about from the first Terrifier, that there was a lack of character development and plot, and it was just for the gore. We have high school student Sienna that is preparing for a Halloween party, and she's making her own costume, which is this inspired, you know, kind of female hero with the wings, which is the concept that Damien had a long time ago, and he wanted to incorporate into this franchise. The night before the party, Sienna has a really vivid dream in which she sees Art the Clown and it is quite an intense dream. And of course, the next day on Halloween night, Sienna will be confronted face to face in real life with Art the Clown. Obviously, my favorite character is the villain in this story, which is Art the Clown. And as I've said, one of the things that I believe made this franchise now what it is and why so many people loved it in the first place. Like, his laugh is really charismatic. He has this kind of aura of a homicidal maniac, but at the same time, he's being so cute about it that it just makes you fall in love with him. He runs around with like a trash bag full of, you know, things that he intends to use to kill and torture people. That's where he carries his weapons, just in a black trash bag. Now, Art the Clown might be silent for the most part, but he is somebody that is really brutal when it comes to the killings, and sometimes he takes his sweet extra time to enjoy a kill. I feel like the character of Sienna is a character as well that it is really well explored. The way that she is kind of shy, but also really, she has a lot of courage. You see her also evolve through the movie. She's one of the characters that gets the most character arc, the one that you get to know the most. So I feel like they did a really good job with this main female protagonist and the way that her story and everything escalated with her. Like, she's being hunted, but she's also being like a badass warrior. And I really enjoyed to see her as a character in this film. So I feel like with the character development in this movie, we got an improvement from Terrifier 1. However, when it comes to the world building, that's where we are lacking a little bit. And the director did have 2 hours and 18 minutes to do that. I forgot to mention, but this movie is 2 hours and 18 minutes long, which is a lot. Now, did this movie need so much running time? Probably not, but I feel like the director really wanted to have the time to explore especially Sienna's life and relationships and things, and he wanted to use all the time that he could to make sure that he got enough time for all the kills he wanted, plus the character development. So when Damien created the script, he realized that he was being a lot more demanding. Like, he knew that he needed a lot more money to materialize the things that he had written, the things that he had in his head. And like I said, he created some sort of like crowdfunding, and I think he wanted like 50,000 and he got like 250,000. So he really exceeded his expectations, and a lot of people backed up the project because a lot of people wanted to see Terrifier 2. We wanted to see Art back. This movie has a lot of things from older slashers, especially from the 70s and the 80s. And those are things that I loved to see in the film. The movie progresses really slowly, even though you get kills from the very beginning. But it does have this kind of feel of a B-movie, especially when it comes to the dialogues and some of the actors' performances. I felt like Sienna and Art were the strongest actors, and the rest of the cast was not as great. Especially Sienna's mom was a really weak character when it comes to acting, and you could see that she was just delivering her lines as if she was reading them on paper, like with no emotion. It was the more noticeable character where I was like, the way that she's delivering her lines is just not good. There's a lot of like synth pop music elements to the film. Again, we go back kind of to the 80s. So there's a lot of good things for people that loved horror, especially from those time periods. It's just that this one is a lot more brutal than the movies that you would expect from 70s and 80s. If you look at the slashers from that time, yeah, some of them were gorier than others, but this movie is brutal. In an interview, Leono said that the attraction to violent horror is a coping mechanism. Our mortality is so devastating to us that we need ways to accept it. In this movie, what we see is a lot of dead bodies, and we don't even get time for any family members or anybody to really even notice or, you know, feel sad about it or grieve. It's just a bloodbath. Let's talk about the horror, shall we? So in the first like 10 minutes of the movie, you're already gonna see a really brutal death that is going to kind of slowly prepare you for what's to come. If you thought that was brutal, just you wait. As you're watching the movie, you're going to see blood, guts, molars, pieces of people, It is quite intense when it comes to the gore. It can get really disgusting, and I think part of it is because all of those scenes of gore have so much light that you get to see things really up close and with a detail. Now some parts might look more fake than others, but in general the practical effects are absolutely stunning. They are fantastic and I love them. Some scenes might make your stomach turn a little bit. Possibly my favorite kill scene is one that a lot of people are not going to be able to take, which happens around halfway through the film, and it involves a bedroom. That's all I'm gonna say. If you know, you know. But that one was the hardest. That was the point where my partner that was watching the movie with me wanted to quit, but I pushed him to keep going. But that scene was a lot to take. Also, most of the kills are not quick. Art the Clown takes his time, and he just, you know, likes to go through his processes. And my partner was like, why is he torturing that person for so long? And I was like, I think, you know, he's just creating art. That's what his name is for. He wants to kill people but also create something artistic with their bodies, and that's why he mutilates them in certain ways. But that's just my take and a stretch maybe. I don't know if that theory is true. What I can also tell you about the death scenes is that they are quite creative, and I think that's also another thing that I like about the Terrifier movies, is that the death scenes are bringing a little bit something new, even if it's disgusting. And like I said, the practical effects were absolutely fantastic. But fear not, because apart from all of the guts and the blood and the gore, there's also funny parts in the movie. You're gonna laugh at times. It has this kind of way of relieving that tension and that feeling of disgust. And I understand why a lot of people were more sensitive to the movie than others, but at the end of the day, I feel like you can tell that it is fake. You know, you need to remind yourself that this is a movie, and everything that you see is just fake. Now, something that I did not like about the movie is that it did take a little bit of a too much of a supernatural vibe, and I kind of didn't enjoy that part so much. But in general, the horror in this movie is not meant to scare you. There are no jump scares. It's not a movie that is supposed to be eerie and creepy and atmospheric. This is just a movie about Art the Clown, who loves to torture and kill and mutilate bodies, and he does it in ways that are creative yet quite intense and brutal. At the end of the day, I decided to give this movie a 4 out of 5. Something that I really enjoyed, again, is the character of Art the Clown, the innovative kills, the really good practical effects, and I did like to see other characters with a little bit of story like Sienna. But on the other hand, I was still really bummed that I still don't know the backstory of Art the Clown. I still don't know where he came from at all. And you know, why is he kind of this supernatural being? Like, I would like to know more about Art the Clown, and I feel like when you have a movie that is 2 hours and 18 minutes, you could have given us at least a little glimpse of Art's backstory. And I do hope that by Terrifier 3, we're gonna get it. Because there is a post-credit scene that kind of makes you know that there's going to be a part 3, which I kind of already expected, and I'm obviously going to check it out as well. Now, if you love gore and you can take a lot, I would recommend you guys to watch it as soon as you can, because it is a lot of fun if you love guts and gore and practical special effects. But if you're somebody that doesn't really like body horror, like gore in general, this is not a movie for you. This is not like the Saw movies. This is more intense, I would say. So just keep that in mind if you go into it. Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed this spoiler-free review. Let me know down below if you've watched the movie, if you're a fan of the franchise, if you love Art the Clown as much as I do. Let's talk about it in the comments, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!